And we are back for week number 2 on this podcast for focusing in on our personal Frankenstein and our perfectionist demon. Now, these are a little bit farther. Something happened to the video. I must not have exported it, or it got a different file, went somewhere else, it disappeared. I don't know. Something happened. And so I'm re-recording this, but I also said, you know what? I'm going to show all the scars, especially with this month. It just kind of, I guess, happened a few times because in one of the other videos, the mic wasn't turned on. In this one, something happened to this podcast episode, and I uploaded the first one twice. So I don't know what happened, but we're going to roll with it. These are the kinds of things, the little mistakes, the little nuances, the different things that happened. And each one kind of happens and makes you a little bit stronger. Because each time I'm going to make sure that I check the mic and that I do a quick little video to test to make sure that I'm in the frame, or, that everything's going right. I'm also working on making sure that I got everything I need when I upload it. So this is just another one of those things. So this month, what we did is we went a little bit more on Frankenstein, okay? Frankenstein popped up, and we focused a little bit more on him, going in a little bit more for his scars. What I want you to do when you are working on your Frankenstein, I want you to go in and think about all the different things that happened, okay? Things that happened to you in your life, things that made you who you are. I want you focusing in on those because those are the qualities that make your personal Frankenstein so special, okay? So each of us, as we're born, we have different traits and certain, things about us, physical, mental, that come out when we are born, and they're from our mothers and from our fathers, okay? We come out as a blank slate for the most part, as in how we kind of take in the world, how we act, and things like that. But there are certain underground traits that would come from either our mother or our father, okay? And then as we're growing up, we start making we start, paying attention, and we start getting our own little quirks. Some we pick up from our parents, some we pick up from the neighborhood, the area we live in, the friends that we're surrounding ourselves with. And so what happens is each one of these pieces is added on, just like a piece of skin added on to you. And some of these are going to be scars, or I wouldn't say scars exactly. I would say slight, subtle shifts in texture or color or things like that that you'll notice on a Frankenstein character, to where it is what makes them unique. It's not exactly you. There's still not like stitching. There's not scars there. It's just blended in to where it has this subtle shift to a new place. And that where that thing has just been so ingrained to you. This could be habits. This could be, certain things about your character, about your personality that have become just a part of you. Then the next layer I want you guys to think about is, what are some of those things you are trying to add in? These are things that you add in that are not necessarily something you always held on to. These are pieces that you're trying to add on. So you might see some stitching, you might see some staples, they might be held on, there might be starting to heal or starting to ingrain. Let's say you started to add in a habit of working out and going to the gym. This is something that, it could be something that's barely hanging on because you're just trying to build that new habit. It could also be something that's starting to heal because you've been doing it for a little while. However, it's not a super strong part. You're still takes effort to kind of incorporate it into your way of life. Now, the third thing I want you to think about is those wounds that are infected. Those wounds that are big, that are hurting. Now, these could be gashes. These could be parts of skin that are just falling apart, or have discolored or are really hurting. So there's a few different types. These are going to be scars. There's going to be some of them to where you can just rip it off. You can just pull the Band-Aid off. And it might sting for a moment, but it'll heal. These are going to be things like this is going to be maybe, a friend, a new friend that you made but isn't working out or has mistreated you. This could be something new that you added to your life, but, isn't super important and you kind of just had to cut it away. Ones that you can still rip off might hurt a little bit more. Maybe you were stabbed in the back by somebody. However, it didn't cut super deep. Now, there's going to be other ones to where you can still rip them off, but they're going to take a little bit longer. And these are, family members or, or certain, friends that you've had a little bit longer. These could be situations, these could be jobs. And it might take a little bit more work. However, you can still remove them. And I want you guys to think about some of those that you have in your life. And then going just one step deeper is those wounds that are infected, but they need to be surgically removed. These are ones that you need to get rid of because they're festering, or they need some ointment, they need something to help them heal, but it takes a little bit more care. So let's say something going on in the family between family members. This could be you with a ex that, you still share a child or share something in life with, a super close friend that's been there forever and you're kind of hitting a rough patch. These are things that need to heal that wound, but you just kind of haven't been paying attention to it. Or it's something that you're not really sure how to kind of handle. Some of those wounds you can't just rip off and hope they heal. Some of them need ointment. Some of them need to be surgically removed. So it takes a little bit more care to get rid of the situation altogether. Other ones need a different kind of medication or a different kind of ointment or sew up to kind of where you're going to have to go in and put some work in to fix the issue so that it heals up and you can't just discard it or get rid of it. All of these things are what makes you special and unique. Every single one of these scars I just spoke about. And as you're doing this, I want your perfection demon over here in the background just watching you make all of these mistakes, all of these textures, all of these scars, all of these imperfections, all of these little lumps in the clay. And he's going to be festering in the background. But I want you to focus on that feeling of being free. And then later on, you can work on your perfection demon just a little bit. And just so you can get that taste and that feeling of the difference in that energy that's there. So that is what I got for you this week. Next week, he's going to be in the background and he's really festering up. So next week, perfection is going to try to take over again. So come back next week and see what we go on with that. And hopefully you guys are enjoying this series.